Swappers, I hope you learned a little bit of something in that history. I try to keep it real, and the same goes for my uniform.
Before we get on with today's history and uniform, I just want to give another shout out to the United States Coast Guard Atlantic area, more specifically the 9th District Sector, Lake Michigan. Basically, a lot of you guys know that follow me on the Twitter that I just returned from North Carolina, where I actually got to work with members of the sector Lake Michigan, as well as the cadre from the Great Lakes Cap Division. With that being said, big shouts out to you guys, and let me also tell you guys that you make some of your best friendships and lifelong friendships in the military and in events of catastrophe. And I know that's really bad to say, but it's true, because your day-to-day people don't really know. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on TV, but until you have boots on grounds, you don't share that camaraderie that you can only get in situations like that. So with that being said, let's track. Okay, so let's get into some history today. So today's actual history and uniform build will be that of the United States Coast Guard MSRT, or Maritime Security Response Team. Now, let's not get that confused with the TACLET, basically the Coast Guard Tactical Law Enforcement Team, or the MSST, the Maritime Safety and Security Team. Now, they're really easy to get confused. I myself definitely know the difference. But what I'm saying is it's very easily to get confused with these units unless you specifically, do some research and find the difference. So I hope this history kind of leads you to knowing the difference between the three, or at least knowing exactly what the MSRT is about. I would say that the MSRT are basically Coast Guard's, counter tangoism, where the TACLET is the Coast Guard's counter, drug type unit, and the MSST are the harbor and security patrols. So that's really the difference, right? If you got to take down some real hardcore tangos and they're hardcore, then you would call the MSRT in. Now, if you know of, it's kind of like the DEA. If there's anything to do with narcotics trafficking, different things that are more into the law enforcement realm, from the way that I understand it, you would call the TACLET unit. And then obviously the MSST is actually for the harbor and security patrols, and itself should tell you what this unit and those operators do. Perhaps we'll do a build on them in the coming future. But basically, your MSST, it's a harbor and inshore patrol and security team that includes detecting and, if necessary, stopping and arresting submerged divers. It is the only special operations group that can arrest submerged divers, and that is the MSS team. When we give those guys in the Coast Guard a real hard time, but to be honest, the operators of the MSRT routinely work with the spec ops of other military. And point of fact being, there definitely have been MSRT members that have gone into the SEAL teams. I know two specifically that I have heard of. Let's basically get on and track on this MSRT. Now, I know this gets a little complicated, but just hear me out and give me a chance here. In 2004, in order to fully address the service's congressionally mandated maritime homeland security responses, Coast Guard leadership merged Chesapeake's Virginia MSST 91102 with Tactical Law Enforcement Team North to form a new maritime counter-tangoism response capability team. Originally designated the Security Response Team, or SRT-1, and then renamed the Enhanced MSST, the unit was formally established in 2006 as the Maritime Security Response Team, or the MSRT. In 2013, the service began forming a second MSRT on the West Coast by transforming San Diego's MSST 91109 into an MSRT. In 2017, the service officially changed MSST 91109 into MSRT West, so that there now exists an MSRT West and the MSRT East. So as stated, after the attacks in 2001 in New York, it was pretty clear everybody in the government had to get a little piece of the anti-tangoism game, who from the formation of the Department of Homeland Security out of the host of separate law enforcement, agencies and police agencies. And basically what was good about this, as far as hitters that really wanted to operate and such in the Coast Guard, it was more a robust role, if you will, for JSOC, which JSOC would be the Joint Special Operations Command that you hear me toss around from time to time on the channel. For years, the Coast Guard had occupied kind of a quasi-military role in the U.S. government. I mean, I know we certainly ragged on, the Coast Guard while I was in the military and actually getting out in law enforcement, but the point of fact is the Coast Guard does do pretty high-speed stuff, and with the element of the MSRT, they actually get to go abroad since 2001. So again, with the events that unfolded, in 2001, it's basically why the Deployable Operations Group are known, commonly within teams. The DOG was formally established within the Coast Guard to be sort of a domestic maritime counter and anti-tangoism force to address threats to the homeland and abroad. As part of SOCOM, the DOG trained and equipped Coast Guardsmen to do everything from take down tango captured ships to detecting and recovering dirty nukes. So the Maritime Security Response Teams are about as close to Navy SEALs as the Coast Guard gets, and in actuality, many of them are trained by SEAL instructors. The MSRT includes snipers, dog handlers, and EOD technicians who are so highly trained they can detect and dispose of chemical, biological, or radiological weapons. MSRT Coast Guardsmen are the counter-tangoism force within the Coast Guard service, as opposed to anti-tangoism, which is primarily defensive in nature, with missions to take down tango-infested ships, hit the bad guys from helicopters, and assault objectives like the Army Rangers or the Navy SEALs. The force is also trained to recover high-value targets or free captured innocents. The MSRT is a full-time counter-terrorism assault arm of maritime law enforcement. They're tasked out with being the first responders to any tangoism situations that require boarding and securing hostile vessels. In all waters, both domestic and abroad, these hitters are going to come aboard that vessel, whether you like it or not. Hey, Somalia, you fucking skinnies. So as stated, originally as part of the Coast Guard's Deployable Operations Group, or DOG, before it was dissolved in 2013. The MSRT remains the go-to team in responding to piracy all over the world. So the MSRT, basically each assault element is broken down into several teams. The direct action section is the main group of vessel boarding operators that are extensively and exclusively trained in CQB, or close quarter combat. Then the precision marksman observer team provides rear support through the lens of a high-powered sniper rifle. And finally, the tactical delivery teams bring the rest of their MSRT comrades into the fold. The teams also include personnel that are specifically trained in handling chemical, biological, radioactive, nuclear, and high-yield explosive environments, mixing the talents of the EOD and bomb squad units within the CBRN capabilities. The MSRT is called in for situations that involve neutralizing tangos or pirates. The scope of their mission is huge. If it's in the interest of America to neutralize a threat at sea, they will. Their areas of operators include the often misunderstood international waters, and that's you know, especially say within the last like decade, with all the skinnies over there fucking hijacking, you know, vessels. I mean, let's fucking go. I had a buddy that actually signed up with a private security. Of course, he's gone like 8 months out of the year, but he's making fat cash and doing what he loves to do. Again, though, don't get it twisted. MSRT are some of the biggest hitters we got. As with most special operations, their movements are not often discussed in the news, but they go everywhere. Recently, one of their known areas of operation, obviously, has been off the coast of Syria, in the Mediterranean Sea, and all around the coast of Africa. And, you know, the Sea of Aden and all that. They're all over that. So, with that being said, operators on your feet! Let's get the fuck down range. Huh?
It's burning down, it's burning high. When ashes fall, the legends rise.
Dreaming big, town is small, and it's going down. All I need is a microphone, I'm headed for the crown, y'all. Call me whack, call me weak, say I'll never blow. Memphis bleak, they know like the radio that Henderson was meant to speak. I'm on these tracks, just like Thomas, I'm the truth, just being honest. Y'all a bunch of Martin and Anthony's, yeah, that's prima donnas. Wayne Brady, they know the deal. Henderson just showing skill.